was the kid that was like redecorating my room my whole life. My mom would come home, the bed would be across the room. It was like, I was always changing things. I had a little outhouse that I fixed up outside. I mean, it was always like a fun.
By outhouse, it wasn't a bathroom.
Sorry,
okay.
no, it was a retired outhouse.
Artists, designers, actors, photographers, architects, and stylists build worlds that start in our imagination, but through a mix of talent and vision, they bring them to life. These are often people who didn't follow a traditional path growing up. They forged their own and carved out their own creative niche. I'm Melania Gomez, an interior stylist and former editorial director of Martha Stewart Living. This is A Life Creative, a weekly podcast where we shine a light on the stories of extraordinary makers and worlds they build. Find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Rebecca Robertson joins me for a conversation about her very New York professional life. She had numerous jobs like working in film production with headline-making directors, as a talent coordinator with the likes of Snoop Dogg, and as a prop stylist for catalogs and magazines. She bought and renovated a building in Manhattan and opened a wine shop with her husband while raising a family. These days, she's designing interiors for model apartments in New York City. I've known Rebecca for a couple of decades now, having met her during our time at Martha Stewart Living. She worked in the collecting department with Fritz Karch. We had Fritz on our show a while back, so check out his episode as well. Hello, Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh my God, what an honor.
I know.
Thank you for having me.
I guess we should start with how we know each other, first of all. So remind me, when did you start at Martha Stewart?
I started, 2000 and I want to say 1?
Okay.
Yeah.
And how long were you there?
I was there for 13 years.
13 years. But we're going to go back a little bit, because what I find fascinating is everything that you did and the jobs that you had in sort of this New York professional life. And it's a pretty classic professional New York life. You've done a lot of things. So where would you start with that? Would you start with that like right after school, or would you?
I would sort of start with, so right after I graduated from Parsons, and I studied interior design, and I was thinking, okay, I don't want to do traditional interior design, have clients. What I want to do is set design. Right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I want to do. I want to do movies. I want to do shows. I want to...
Specifically for film and video.
Film and video,
okay.
yeah. To be able to create these worlds. So I actually had an internship with Woody Allen, which was... incredible, right? So I decided this is what I wanted to do. I would get these, it was like a movie magazine.
Wait, this was a total cold call.
Total cold call. I want to work for you, and I want to do it for free.
And
by the way.
And back then, no internet.
No internet. You're like flipping through, this little thing that comes out about what productions are happening in New York, in LA.
Like Variety, or like things like,
I can't remember
like
what
the
it was
back
called,
of a...
something like that. So I go to the back, and I'm like, okay. And I want to do Woody Allen. That's like, so I call up and I say, hey, do you, can I come work for you? And the amazing thing was...
Was it him?
No, it was there. I was in the production design department.
Okay.
This lovely woman, Jessica. And she said yes.
Right off the bat. She said, come in.
I kind of think about it. I think there was maybe 2 phone calls in between. And then I went in and I did it. And
Did you know what you were doing at the time, or what were you doing at the time?
So I was working in the production office as support to the production design team.
Okay.
So, it was like, all right, again, there was no internet. It was, okay, we need a rusted out box spring. Where can we find that? Right? So you get out the yellow pages, you start calling mattress stores. Then they send you to the next person and the next person. Oh no, I don't have any.
I got a guy.
I got a guy. Right? And that was how you did it. And It was kind of, I look back and I think that was magical. What kind of information you get really just by talking to people, not like a...
So the resource, that resource sort of muscle.
Yeah. I went from set design to then handling talent to director's assistant. But always in that kind of production mind. And that went on for a couple of years. So
and by handling talent, who
oh my God.
Can you say who you handled?
I think I can. So, I was in charge of renting the motorhomes and then filling them with the goodies that they wanted. So it was
like that's in the contract, like the green M&Ms. And
exactly.
right.
It was like Rosie O'Donnell and Michael Jordan and Sesame Street. My favorite was like arranging cars for all of Sesame Street.
wait, for the people who actually do the puppeteers.
Yes, for like Big Bird, right? I was getting Big Bird's car. Like, it was totally thrilling to me. And I loved the sort of inside, very detailed, like this one wants Doritos and wings in their motorhome. This one only wants white candles. Was that Big Bird? No, Big Bird was very low key.
FYI, I think I saw some drawing of how the person in the Big Bird costume actually gets in it.
Yeah.
And his neck is actually the arm.
It was all so we were doing a commercial and so it had to be really secret, right? So there were kids in the commercial. There had to be a long tent. So you never saw the reveal of the person maybe smoking, whatever, going into being Big Bird. That was it's shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah. Nothing would be more alarming than seeing Big Bird with a pack
pop out a real person with a
Newport
cigarette.
Lights.
Oh my God, right? Like some child, poor child. Yeah, so it was a really fun time.
Were you fazed by celebrity, or was it, a New Yorker? I feel like New Yorkers aren't. We aren't phase. It's a common place to see somebody walking down the street, in our neighborhood.
Right, totally.
I just saw Sam Rockwell walking his dog, and I just think, oh, that's Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I'm not going to bother you. I know you're going to work, or you
That's
just want to have
key.
your moment.
I think that's the key, is to say, you know what, I'm a New Yorker too.
Right. I'm trying to get to work. You're trying to get to work.
You grew up in Bucks County.
I did.
Yeah. And your parents were antique dealers?
They were.
Okay.
They were.
So your childhood memories of that, does that all link to your creative life right now?
It does all link together. And I think when you're doing it, it doesn't necessarily all make sense,
or,
right?
Or feel like an influence.
Or feel like an influence. And it's sort of, it takes different sort of steps or jobs. But, my parents were both antique dealers, and so it was the most fun thing. If you see a garage sale, that car is like, the idea that there's a flea market. I mean, I was a little kid, and I was like, let's get up, 6 a.m. We're going to the flea market. The most fun ever. I would go to the flea market before school. Right? And so that whole passion has been with me throughout. Little did I, know that then it would be my job for a series of years.
Yeah. What kind of antiques did your parents do? Was it?
They did American, some primitives, also general tchotchkes, all sorts of things. My dad loved furniture, my mom.
And did they teach you all about those things, or was it just trial and error of just
It was sort of trial and error, and I think, it was all sort of happening, and I wasn't necessarily curious about it until later. Right, where then you start to ask questions. Oh, what is that ironstone? What are those?
What is that made of?
Yeah, kitchen bowls you've got, and why is that valuable?
So when you're a kid and you're getting influenced by your parents and their sort of creative sort of spirit, when did you decide, after going into high school, going into college, that you wanted to go into a creative field, or did you want to do something completely different?
So I went to school for fine arts.
Okay.
At the museum school in Boston, and that was fantastic, except it was way open, right? It was no grades, no attendance, and I was kind of like, wait, what do you mean?
Wait, so it was sort of just a free kind of schedule?
You had classes. If you went to the class, you didn't necessarily get along with your teacher, they were like, switch. And I came from public education, and I was kind of like, what do you mean not like your teacher? I'm going to love my teacher. It's my teacher. This has to work. So I think that it is a perfect place for a fine artist. But I then felt like, okay, I want to have sort of a skill or a trade that I can learn. And then I switched to interior design and then went to Parsons to finish my degree.
And so the interior design part where did that stem from when you were at the museum school? You just kind of just were into it.
I've always been into it.
Okay.
I was the kid that was redecorating my room my whole life. My mom would come home. The bed would be across the room. It was I was always changing things. I had a little outhouse that I fixed up outside. I mean, it was always like a fun.
By outhouse, it wasn't a bathroom.
Sorry, no, it was like a retired outhouse.
I fixed up the toilet in the backyard.
Listen, we're not above fixing up a toilet. So it was something that I was always doing and drawn to.
Well, I've heard this several times of interior designers that when they were kids, they loved moving furniture around.
Yeah.
And it's one of the traits that they were never happy with one way, or it could work a little bit this way. So you're at Parsons, you're studying interior design.
Yep.
The disciplines are different.
The disciplines are very different.
And so what was the sense of direction? You're gaining these skills in interior design. Were you still happy with it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
totally.
Okay.
I think because it's so, it's both creative and technical.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was a really good mix, right? So especially now you see it's very technical. I have 3 inches on either side of that bed. New York City design, right? You can't, sometimes there's a lot of space, but more often than not, there isn't.
There isn't.
So, but then there's the creative side of it. So it's really kind of a happy marriage of the two sort of brains.
And that distinction between interior design where people are actually living in it as opposed to when we were at the magazine where we're arranging things to camera. Yeah. And so when you did it, the way it looks from this angle, if you did an overhead of that, you're like, why is that chair that far from the, that kind of thing happens. And I think that your experience in it, in editorial and in traditional interior design, bridges that understanding, and it only enhances for what you do today.
I'm so thankful that I had all of that time and experience in editorial, because what we produce today would never, I wouldn't have learned that in school.
Yeah.
Interior design. It's very rare to have someone that will take it sort of to the degree that
we did.
That we did. We were doing a story on antique corn picks, right? This is when I was working in Fritz's Magical World. And Eric Pike was the art director, and we got ears of corn. And then what I remember having to do was surgically replace the kernels of corn so they were perfect. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. You know, but it's that level of precision that I now really, really appreciate.
Yeah, the attention to detail.
Exactly.
And also to understand that coming from a film and video world, it's a different kind of production than an editorial world where there's a lot less sitting around, a lot less waiting.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But there's not necessarily talent.
Right, talent. Oh my gosh, wait, add a couple of hours anytime you bring in talent.
When do you think your aesthetic from interior design to editorial, do you think it was the same, or do you think it sort of evolved into something a little bit different to get your own style?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there's certain things that I've always been drawn to, long, lean lines, really dramatic interiors, but I think it really developed being at Martha. Right? I think we saw so many different homes and styles and photo shoots being produced, your work. I mean, there's just so many things that informed that made me a much better interior designer. Had I not seen all of those things, I think it would have been much more sort of sheltered and small. And I feel like it expanded the more you sort of put in. Yeah. You're kind of filling the tank with reference.
And also, the listener should know that even though we're editors at a magazine, there's a vocabulary at Martha that we don't, in our personal lives or our personal tastes, might be a little bit different from that than what we're doing. It's almost like an actor. Like, oftentimes, right, you make a set and you're just like, okay, this person's a collector and they collect clocks, and then this is the way they're going to display them. But in your own home, you might be a little bit more modern, you might be a bit more traditional. And I think that I love that aspect of it. And by today's standards, what you do now is that you have clients.
We do.
And
thankfully.
Which we were talking about earlier. What style right now resonates with you the most, do you think?
I think, so there's, like you say, kind of what you do for work and what you do for your home life. Just to look back at the Martha time, right? As the decorating editor, you're doing a different sort of story every month. This month it's blue, time it's multicolored, this time it's super neutrals, and you're exercising that muscle, right? Of all these different styles. And I think that's made us like so much more versatile when it comes to clients.
Yeah.
And the jobs that we do, because we're able to tap into these different looks as if you were tapping in sort of the way you do for a story with research and drawing things a certain way.
This person's a writer. They love to read.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and
they love to cook.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about how some of the work that we do, we get like a brief on who the potential client is.
Yeah.
But I would say for myself, you know, we live in an 1837 brick building, and we're lucky enough to have a big open space. So I've gone a lot more kind of like primitive, modern, big sculptures or or larger sculptures. I've gotten a lot more sort of pared down, I think.
Which is an amazing feat for a collecting editor.
It's a constant inner and outer battle.
Or as Fritz said in his podcast, he said, we asked him what defines a collection. He said, if you have more than 5.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those.
I got a couple of those too. So after Martha, you decided to leave Martha, and you started going into the catalog world, which is another animal.
Did that for a little bit.
Which editorial really influences catalog. Yeah. You know, sometimes those tears that they're giving you are your stories that you did.
Yeah, no, that'll happen sometimes. We'll see product come out, and I'm like, that looks a lot like
I don't say anything anymore. I used to, but then I stopped because I just find it hilarious. So.
Yeah, I mean, that was great in the sense that, you know, you go in, it's a 2-week thing. It's kind of like, you know, you dive into production. That's kind of all you think about. You eat, sleep, dream. What can I do to make this shoot better? And so that was...
Because sometimes the product isn't what you would normally want to use, and you have to make it look as good as possible. And I love the tears. Here's a tear. Here's a tear of some vases from World of Interiors.
Right.
And this is what you're shooting. And you're
look at the newest, shiniest
with no patina on it, and you're like, you want
this to come to this. Okay, so your brain has to translate and bring that to life. So we did that for a little bit, and then started doing interiors for private clients.
Okay. But in the midst of this, you got married.
Yeah.
And then
I was at Martha.
I remember that. And then you
renovated a building. An 1837 building.
And opened up a wine shop.
And
had a baby.
Okay.
Right. So
just like a few things going on. Like not much, but just like a couple.
Yeah.
I was like, really? I'm pregnant. You want to open a wine shop? Okay, let's do it.
And you were living upstairs, I remember, while all this is going on. And so how did the wine shop come about?
The wine shop came about because we were landlords.
Okay.
And when we first moved in, the fish market was there. Talk about like a New York like story, you know, and they were hauling in thousands of pounds of fish every night, floodlit streets, the guys yelling, you hear skids dragging across the street. And then they left, which was, you know, very sad for me, actually. I was so used to the noise and the people and the community. And then, so we were landlords. We have a big, huge, a 2,500-foot empty space. What are we going to do? Well, we live above. So do we want a club? No. Do we want a restaurant? Mm-mm. What do we need? Oh, we need a wine store.
In the area?
In the area. There was nothing good. I mean, unless you went over to Tribeca at that point. My husband thought, okay, I'm going to talk to a couple people, see if they want to open a shop. And then decided that, in fact, we should open the shop. Yeah.
And did you guys have to teach yourself about wine? I mean, your husband's Italian.
Yes.
Yeah. And
so it was always part of his life and growing up. So he sort of knew about it through life, but certainly didn't study it in any formal way. Yeah. So we, were really lucky enough to work with people and have people work with us that knew, right? Or knew more. And that was how we were able to build that business. And it's coming on 20 years.
Oh, that wine shop.
Yes.
And I remember,
crazy.
Sandy?
Yes.
When the flooding of Sandy. Yeah. And I remember going to the wine shop because you had a flood there.
We had a flood.
I think I still have wine from then. And it always makes you smile because I actually bought private label bottles.
It was our private label because we picked everything up above.
Oh my gosh.
Except for the private label because, we were given like 3 days warning or something, which thank goodness.
Yeah. Was the mini, they had this amazing mini or a little Cinquecento?
It's like a Fiat. station wagon.
In the shop, as well as a beautiful bike. Did that all get...
We drove the car the day before up to higher ground. Not much higher, but higher. We did that. We saved the bike. I mean, yeah, the things that, we've kind of been through. We had like 6.5 feet of water in our whole ground floor.
Yeah.
So that's the wine shop. That's the lobby. That's everything. Yeah, I don't know how we got through it, but we did. We got through it because my husband was a machine, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, people rallied around us.
Yeah.
It was incredible. People organized themselves and came and said, we organized and we want to help you.
Yeah.
It was just like this beautiful showing of humanity.
Yeah. It's a beautiful shop. I've gone to several events there, some birthdays and goodbyes, and it's really amazing how it's set up, and it really is warm. And when you go to a space like that and you know everyone, it's just, it's so great.
No, it's a really beautiful place.
So when you were designing it, did you have something in mind, or did you...
So it was a combination of my husband and I designing.
Do you have the same taste?
Well, he's more classical.
Okay.
And has a lot more patience than I do. In general, he's...
Get it done.
Yeah, but we did it together. And I remember picking out the tables that we still have today.
Yeah.
I remember there's a big, huge door to the back room that, we went to Brooklyn, we picked it out, we tied it to the roof of our car. Me, Marco, my mom, he tied my mom and I in the car by accident. But
just stay here.
Yeah, but as it was happening, or Shane would come over for dinner and I'd be like, Shane, what can I do? Those glass shelves. And, he would say, oh, paint it with a brown line. So it came to be with a lot of people.
You have this shop, it's running along, but then you decide, I want to put something on top of that, and I want to do interior design.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already done interior design on the wine shop.
Yep.
And that's up and running, and there's events happening, and there's sales and whatever. And so how did you get into more interior design?
So basically we started with people's homes, right? And I have to say there was kind of a pivotal moment where we were working on, Marco and I were working on a project in Dumbo. And a private home.
You guys were working together?
Yes. We did a project together.
Okay.
And then I went off to do catalog stuff. Yvette and I started working together.
And Yvette is in the studio right now.
And hi, Yvette.
She's very shy, but
she is a powerhouse of talent. And her and I started working together. She was on that catalog shoot with me. And then we got a call from the developer that had, developed this building that Marco and I had done the project in, who said, I'm going to be working on some projects, and I think we could use an interior design sort of team or angle for our projects. Would you come in and meet with us?
Right.
And I said, sure, let's do it.
Not knowing exactly what it entailed.
Not knowing, but I thought, okay, I want to do interior design. I want to see, I want to know. And so we went in and met with them and started working with them, right? So they are a huge developer in downtown, in Dumbo, and now in downtown Brooklyn. They built a beautiful building, 1 John, on the last buildable piece of the Brooklyn waterfront. Uh-huh. And that, I feel like, really kind of launched our career, pairing our interior design skills with developers.
Right.
Because that's where people got to see what we did.
Now, are they modern spaces, like new builds, or
yes.
Are they? Okay.
Yes. So often what we do now is we'll pair with a developer. Often there's an architect or a starchitect. So it's like a Jean Nouvel building.
Okay.
Or it's, a Bjarke Ingels building.
Wow.
Or it's all these sort of really high-end architects and developers. So
sort of attached with a big personality.
Big personality, big names, big sort of press opportunities, things like that we've luckily been able to be a part of. And I think that it works really well for us because we're conjuring the life that the buyers want to live.
Right. But you're deciding, are you deciding, okay, you're given this blank space and you're like, okay, this is the person that we would want to attract to this particular apartment, and then you go there?
We sometimes get given personalities or profiles, which is so fun.
Yeah.
Right? It's so fun for us.
And they actually do that in editorial.
I love it.
Maybe in editorial, but in catalog, they certainly, our custom is, a 50-year-old woman. She has a second home, right? She loves the holidays, and they give her a name.
Her name is Linda.
Yeah,
We don't get names, but we give names, but we don't get we don't get names. But we'll get like, she's an 8-year-old girl who loves ballet. Da, da, da. Like, or like, just like these people are relocating from here. It's like, so I think it speaks to both Yvette and I's mind of stage set.
And it goes beyond, regular stage setting. When a real estate agent comes into an existing space, they're like, you need to take everything personal out because it has to be neutral. But this goes further than that because you are staging it to feel editorial.
We are.
Right?
We are, right? So we'll come in. I mean, we're not just talking about like a blank white space. So it's sort of expedited interior design within a budget, within a tight time frame. But we're giving these sort of subtle cues at every touch point for when people come in, right? So they come in, they see the living room, right? That should all be beautiful and well styled and all of that. But they're going to open the drawer.
This is where I'm most impressed with you, is that the soup to nuts aspect that we talked about earlier, where it's like down to opening a drawer and seeing beautiful utensils and organization.
It's like, the closets, Yvette, like it's like incredible. Like the level of styling that she gets down to, like, the smallest.
You're gonna fit into these damn size 6 kitten heels,
right?
Whether you like it or not.
But it's all of that that's actually so super fun for us.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, we're not just styling for the walkthrough, we're styling for the photograph at the end, right?
Yes.
So it's like we set the object down and are like, don't touch it.
Yeah, so there's that reality. There's the reality, and then there is, the editorial aspect of photographing, which everything might have to move, and
But like at least we're setting the best sort of stage. So we'll do the
For a
flowers.
walkthrough.
It's sort of like a control freak. But
we
love it.
It is true. I find sometimes when I get booked for an editorial shoot, it's a young interior designer who have clients, and the clients really only want to pay for the architecture and the main pieces of furniture. But as far as artwork, accessories, what goes on tabletop, all that, they're like, we're out of money.
Exactly. It ends there often.
It ends there.
Which is
and then
such
you
a
have to go
bummer.
in and do it. Yeah, it is.
Right?
It really
so that's
is.
why when we do these model apartments, we're able to go the full mile, right? To show, hey, this is actually what we want it to look like.
Yeah. I still get agita though when I go into a space and I see a full built-in of shelves with nothing on it.
With nothing in it. That
with nothing
breaks
on it.
my
Like,
heart.
well, this is going to be a haul.
Right, where are we getting all those Oslo strand? Like,
the only thing sitting on there is like link wooden chains, right?
Loved you for like a couple years, but we're done. Yeah.
But you also mentioned this thing which I really liked, is that you'll stage this apartment. It's part of this whole marketing thing, and then it sells. And then you said that a lot of times the furniture is reused for another apartment, which I love this aspect of not having to, one, dismantle it all, but to sort of reinvent another space with similar items.
Yeah, so, we've had certain developers who are really, really smart will say, okay, so we're going to do this. We did this huge installation for the all-electric building, also that this developer Alloy did. We did 5 model apartments, but they said, we're going to move these around. So when you're thinking about the furnishings, think about things that can move around, right? So it's like you're thinking about modular pieces, rugs that can be sort of, paired together or maybe like sized easily, things that can have these second and third lives, even 4 and 5, which is great, right? So that the things that you're buying are really going to be used. And then often what they'll do is they'll have like a big sale for the people in the building, right?
That's fantastic.
Things don't go to waste.
Yeah. So just for our listeners, we're also, we have a website that coincides with the podcast, and you'll be able to see all of Rebecca's work on there and her projects and her inspiration and whatever she wants to share on there. Amazing. And I think it's a really helpful thing for visual people and for people who are listening.
Yeah.
So when you look back at all these chapters, you did crafts as a kid, And early on, you talked about doing sets, and then you went to magazines, you owned a wine shop, and now you're doing interiors. It seems like that common thread through it is set design, because it happened so early on in what you wanted to do. And you've done all the aspects of it, from film and video, editorial, catalog, and now, on your own, where you're creating your own sets. And is it what you thought was going to happen, or did you just
gravitate to it? As you sort of say it back to me, I'm like, oh, that makes total sense, right? That is exactly kind of what you wanted to do. It just changed a little bit, right? I thought, okay, I want to do movies. That was sort of like the big thing, since I kind of started in that, and I thought that's it. But I think that is what we do.
And I think when people say set design, like, I would love to have done movies, but when I knew friends early on, it's great if you're single, because
it's hard to raise a family and go away for 3 months. You know what I mean?
3 months, and it's just like not
tough.
In your apartment on location. And as fun as that is, probably in your 20s, in your 30s, 40s. And,
lifestyle-wise, it wouldn't have worked for what I was trying to.
It worked.
Trying to have a life outside.
Not as if you didn't put a lot on your plate to begin with. But I think that I love that aspect of it, that you are actually doing what you want to do. Or
turns out, like, oh my gosh. Right?
Every single thing, every single aspect of set design, I think you've done. So, Rebecca, several weeks ago, we had Fritz on the podcast, and he talked about the book that you did with him called Collected.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? I
mean, Fritz is an incredible genius, right? So not just the knowledge he has, but creatively. I mean, I was lucky enough to work with him for a number of years at Martha in the collecting department, right? So that speaks to my whole antique history past, flea markets, Brimfield, like what a dream job.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do a book together, which was an incredible process.
And did he ask you from the very beginning, just like, hey, let's figure this out?
I had gotten approached by an editor, actually at my husband's book party, and who said, like, oh, do you want to do a book? And I was like, you know what? I would like to do a book with Fritz. Let's do a book about collecting and how you live with it, right? So that kind of merges collecting and decorating, right? Because it's not just a more typical decorating book, but it's about this, like, these insane collections. So it's a little bit more kind of quirky, which I love. And so we were able to do the book together.
It was an incredible amount of work, only because the imagery in the book, there are so many collections in it. And there's so many, the credit for photographers at the end, there's a lot. That was a lot of work. It's absolutely beautiful.
The amount of years and talent and all the people that have a hand in that book. Yeah, no, it was really...
And it's quite a portfolio when you think about your work and what you worked on. What is your favorite collection lately? Or are you still a collector?
I am still a collector, but as someone who may move, right? Yeah. Like our house is for sale. I'm like, okay, can it fit in a box?
Yes.
I have this really amazing collection of mother of pearl objects.
Okay.
So these souvenir items that, you become prey to your own story, right? So Fritz and I did about that, did a story on mother of pearl souvenir collectibles. So it's like beautiful little like pens and lockets and coin purses, and it fits in a box, but then I go home and go like, I have to get this out. I need to, display this, because our whole book was like, don't keep it in the box, bring it out, put it out, live with it, share it, let other people see it. So I have to take my own advice.
Do you think your objects are getting bigger, like in the loft now, where you're doing now, I only collect 3 by 5 foot
the
sculpture.
Collections I do now are like, big things, right? Like a sculpture like this big from Adriana Chamaris, or like, I found a guy that was dealing in Bertoya. So I'm like, oh my God. Like, they are getting bigger.
Yeah.
Which is super fun, right? To like...
And you are
scale.
Who you are.
Exactly.
I think you just have to embrace that you are this person. It's the definition of, when do I turn hoarder? I
have a very similar thing to Fritz, right? So his husband is a minimalist.
Yes.
And I would say mine is too.
Markowitz too.
Yeah. So I'm constantly in check with that, even though it's not my natural setting.
But do you sneak things into? I mean, does he come into the? He comes into the loft and says, "What is this?"
Well, I had to stop like moving the furniture around all the time because that's what I love to do, right? And he would be like, "I don't know where that is," like, you know. So I have to.
He falls to the ground when he goes to sit in a chair.
Yeah, there's a famous story of how we went away. I was away in Italy, and we snuck in a rug. Yvette snuck in a rug, and Marco never noticed, which was amazing. I was like,
"How long did it take?"
No, he never noticed.
He never noticed.
I actually got a new rug. He never noticed.
Was it similar?
No.
Don't let him listen.
Exactly. I'm like, do not listen. You don't know.
You're going to go home, and the old rug is going to be under that furniture.
And that would be like, did he notice? I was like, he hasn't said anything.
So, Rebecca, with all your experience in your career, what do you think is the best advice that you ever received? And this is a two-parter.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone like you who wants to do what you do?
I'll start with the second one because I think that it's not always a straight road. Well, it never is. And I think it's important to kind of let it evolve because as we look back on a career and you can see, stage,
the
setting,
steps.
You did that. Like you did the thing you wanted to do, but the way in which I did it didn't fit into that very small box I had created.
Right.
So I think it's about taking jobs that work for you in the moment. You don't have to, and I hear this with my son who's like, oh, but if I do this, then I have to do that. It's like, actually, it's okay. You don't have to like zoom so far out, especially in a creative field, right? Yeah. There is not a clear path for us. No. So I think you just have to go with what you're drawn to at the time, make the best decision you can then.
Yeah.
And then it will kind of add up to where you want to be.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then I was like, what's the best advice I've gotten? I remember when I was starting out and, I was just working all the time and my mom, because, you just really want to do it and do it right. And that's wonderful. And you should have that. But at a certain point, my mom said to me, like, no one's going to tell you to leave at 6:30. You need to do that yourself. And I thought, like, what? Oh my God, she's right.
Yeah.
And I think it is really important as a young person, as an older person, to sort of create your boundaries and take care of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And
for the long haul.
For the long haul. I'm not saying go all in. You should do that. And I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
And that's how you get stuff done. But you also want to like somehow maintain a balance. And I think having my own company, it's important that I do that for myself, for anybody I'm working with. It's important that like, hey, we need to have lives outside of here. Do you know? Yeah. Like, let's keep it healthy.
And sometimes that literally is, we should have lunch.
Right. No,
not keep going.
Exactly. If that will be like,
it's
3:00.
Yeah.
I'm like,
should we get something?
Maybe.
Drink water. That's my advice. So as far, we like to ask our guests if there's anything in particular that is inspiring them lately.
Yeah.
And do you have something?
Oh, yeah, sure. It's going to sound kind of corny, but I'm inspired by...
Niblets on a corn cob?
Well, yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Amazing. I think I'm inspired by... Well, I know I'm inspired by my son and my husband, and I'll tell you why. So my son is 20. And 20, second year of college, and he's just sort of stepping into the creative world, right? And so seeing that through his eyes is so fun. He's got a sewing machine, he's making clothes, he's doing this. We went to Mexico City with him and his girlfriend, and they led us around. It was like such a joy. Yes. This is the cool shop.
Yes.
This clothing
Because they're
store,
so much better at the interwebs
They're
than
so
we are.
much better. They're like investigators.
Yeah.
They know what's cool. It's just like there's so much kind of energy around that and all that he's doing in the music. And it's just like keeping me young, or I'm trying.
Yeah.
So I'm inspired by that. And I'm also inspired by my husband, right? He's had a career. He's written 2 books. He's designed furniture, had it made, all this stuff, and he's going back to school.
What's he going back to school for?
He's getting an MPhil in architecture and environmental studies. He's going to Cambridge.
What is that?
In the UK, like in England.
He just decided?
He just like decided. We went for last summer for a week, like just a fun summer program at Cambridge where you can go.
Yeah.
And then after that, he was like, maybe I should do this. And he's doing it, which is like, oh my God, you're crazy, but this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of both of those, ends of the spectrum of like just starting and then keeping going.
Yeah.
Right? That I feel like, both are super inspiring.
Well, the three of you sound incredibly inspiring, and I want to thank you for joining us today.
Oh my God, what an honor to be here. Thank you.
So, Rebecca, you had this special project you were working on during the COVID time.
Yes. A lot of people had,
sourdough.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't have that. We had a wine shop that was open and running as one of like the critical, supply chains for people. So this kind of was born out of that. It's called vodka.
Okay. Love the name.
Yeah, exactly. It's an oat vodka. So it's got that whole sort of oat milk creaminess with the strength of vodka.
Okay, I'm in.
Yeah. So, but when we were talking about it
Yeah.
and dreaming it up and making it, was like, should we filter all that out? Should we make it this clear liquid? And I was like, no, let's keep it like a, like a sake that's cloudy, right? Like I want to get the credit for it being oak, this sort of like warm nuttiness. So I'd love to make you a cocktail if I can.
I would love that.
So I'm going to put some fresh orange, a lemon ginger syrup.
Okay.
Let's do it for everybody.
Okay. Because Chris wants actually one of these as well.
Yes.
I'm gonna need that drink after this show.
Oh God.
I'm kidding.
You're like, and another thing.
Exactly.
Right? So what we've found is that it's really great with like ginger. I can imagine it in the winter with like a chai or, like I think, or even a matcha cocktail, I think could be really, really great for it. Lemon ginger syrup. So, and then fresh orange really pairs well with it.
You're a mixologist.
Right? So I'm just going to sort of muddle this. We get it nice and cold. And then you've had these beautiful ice cubes for me, which I'm thrilled about.
We were just joking about the ice cubes.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with the recipe? You just kind of...
We have these really great distillers in Wisconsin who are incredible. Yeah, they're these like, chemical engineers, and they decided to open a distillery. So
And did you have to go to them and say, okay, this is what we're making with oats.
Yes.
Can you do it? And
can you do it to scale? They were really game to work with us.
And where did you get the name?
So we just, brainstormed it up. It's made in the U.S.
And we're gonna test it right now.
We're gonna test it right now.
Okay.
If you're game.
I'm coming in.
Chris, my husband, our producer, is coming in.
May
to
I give
taste
you
it.
this?
Thank you.
We're gonna toast you.
Chin chin.
Thank
Toast
you
to
for being
you
on the
guys.
show.
Thank you for
Thank you
having me.
Thank you for producing, and here we go.
Oh, that's so good.
That's really smooth.
Right?
It's different and like
Yeah. I like it.
It needs to get. It's even better the colder that it is.
when the ice melts a
Yeah.
little more.
It's sharp, but it's creamy.
Incredible.
Right?
So
But it
good.
also doesn't have that bite aftertaste.
Right.
Yeah. And does it have the same principles as vodka that you don't smell it?
No.
No.
Yeah. It's very clean.
If you want to learn more about our guest today, find links and show notes, visit our website, www.alifecreativepod.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider following or subscribing, commenting, and giving us a like on whichever platform you're listening on. It really helps us grow our audience. Our producer is Chris Kangas. Our theme music was composed by Pierce McIntyre, and a special thanks to all the amazing people at East 10th House Studio.